On this day in gaming...
Virtual reality went from cool concept to disastrous dud. On August 14th, 1995, the Virtual Boy, the Nintendo novelty that would become one of the biggest flops ever, hit US stores. Virtual Boy, what the heck is that? Well, into the Wayback Machine, Mr. Peabody. Our tale begins with a legend, Gunpei Yokoi, one of Nintendo's earliest game designers and the driving force behind much of the company's early success. The Game & Watch, the arcade cabinets for Donkey Kong, Rob the Robot, Metroid, and of course his greatest contribution, the Game Boy. All of these were Yokoi's brainchildren, and all of them, successful, served as the stimuli for this samurai's stature, which is a fancy alliteration-prone way of saying Yokoi was making Nintendo rich, so he had free reign to do what he wanted and make what he wanted. By the mid-90s, technology began to push the medium into a whole new dimension. Star Fox with its Super FX chip blew gamers away with its cutting-edge polygons, and a year later, Donkey Kong Country became one of the most beautiful 2D side-scrollers ever, utilizing pre-rendered graphics. For games to evolve, to offer a level of freedom and realism and immersion that up to this point were just not possible, 3D had to be the future. But Yokoi's red-sighted vision of this 3D video game was a literal one. A bold, ambitious, and admirable goal, but a grossly impractical one. The design of the thing was stupidly drawn up. What you had was a tabletop pair of eyeglasses that were immobile. You couldn't take them to work, to school, to the bathroom. It was just one of the most awkward pieces of hardware ever put together. The games were all monochrome, red and black, mostly because of cost efficiency. Color would have set the Virtual Boy's already high price point of almost $200 much higher, and red LEDs are cheap, not to mention they use less battery life. But if the Virtual Boy failed in style, it was an utter bomb in substance. Freedom, realism, immersion, all illusory bullet points to put somewhere on the back of a box, because these were the same exact games that you'd find on any NES console or a Game Boy. The only difference was that the toy made use of the company Reflection's 3D technology, and as all through today's piece, I use 3D in quotes. Remember, 3D technology, whether in movies or in games, will always be as illusory as the depth we project when we're watching or playing something just on a screen. Our minds always make an image three-dimensional, glasses are not. It failed in the 50s, it failed in the 80s. Will it fail again? Well, it's not really my job to predict. I'm merely musing. I'm prone to sidetracking. What was I talking about? Oh, the Virtual Boy's 3D effect. It was a decent one that seldom impressed, usually dividing these still two-dimensional worlds into various planes. But the games were still side-scrolling, and the games, what few were ever developed, did anything but present a believable, engageable reality. And just to seal the Virtual Boy's fate was its marketing scheme. The system was actually made available to rent at your local video store. Nintendo felt that letting the consumer try this new test subject out would lessen their angst about throwing $200 on a gimmick. Well, the ploy failed, as you can imagine. It only let the masses see, for just a few bucks, how anachronistic these goggles would be in a year, when the N64 and the PlayStation would take the route of three-dimensional rendering, of fleshing out their interior world instead of concentrating on the illusory image. So the Virtual Boy sucked, but mind you, it's today more relevant than it's ever been, as the last few years have yet again been enthralled in a mentality of fascination towards making games more real than they've ever been. Whether that's in the time-honored tradition of the 3D effect, as in the 3DS, or the controller revolution, this Minority Report-esque idea of using our hands to interact on a level that a controller is just not able to do. Whatever the future has in store, the Virtual Boy will always be there to remind us. Substance trumps style. At the end of the day, people care about the games. People care about having fun. If all you're doing is inducing headaches, if you're failing to present a different, evolved art of interactivity, well then, what's the point? A lesson was carved August 14th, 1995, this dimensional day in gaming.